Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition, to another installment of hashtag
Fade to black.
Fade to Black. We control the narrative. I told you I had a surprise for y'all, so I just want to let y'all know our merch is no joke. It actually came in on my birthday on September 16th, but I wasn't here. I was out of town. So I just wanted to show it off just a little bit. First of all,
I want to feel pretty.
so first of all, let me stop feeling myself. Let me introduce my wonderful panel, my brothers, proud to call my brothers in the struggle, Seep Away and Beast Johnson. How are y'all doing today?
Doing good, doing good.
Show them in.
That's what I'm saying. You know what? Hopefully Mr. O will tune in with us. I don't know what's going on. It's not Friday. Maybe he didn't. Well, he probably gonna message me somehow, some way. But anyways, we're here. Let's go ahead and show off this merchandise. Let me show y'all something. So I got this. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me go on ahead and stroll that beautiful advertisement. I got the shirt last week. Shipping is free until the 30th of this month. So you got all the way to the end of this month to order your merchandise. Shipping is free. And then also I got the cup too, as I was showing earlier. Let me go ahead and drink my healthy water, Beast Johnson. We talked about it on the 2 shows ago where you made fun of me. So let's not even go there.
I always forget my drink.
I just sit here with my glass chalice.
Because I'm so jealous because everybody else had their drinks and I'm the only one that's like don't have anything. So I said, let me go ahead, get the merch once again, strolling at the bottom and the cup. But today's show, ladies and gentlemen, I won't say we've been dancing around this issue. I think it's time that we address the elephant in the room and let's get down to the ideas, get down to solutions on what will help our people out in this time of crisis, not in this time of need, in this time of crisis, but not to go too far into the show. We got our opening statements and Seep Away, and I think you should lead us off.
Well, for my opening statement, wow. I had a great conversation today with a colleague of mine. We were discussing the African Union and how in 2003 it changed its constitution to include the African diaspora to be a part of building the United States of Africa. So if we're going to try to escape the jurisdiction of the United States, either we're setting up our own nation here within the territory of the United Nations, or we got to go somewhere else. And the most logical place is to Africa. But in our conversation, we realized that in trying to mobilize the African American community about this opportunity, it just revealed more and more of the divisions and the problems of trying to come up with a single vehicle that can represent us. So my opening statement has to do with the challenge of being able to speak with one voice to the international community. There are many different kinds of Americans, but they have an American government, they have an American president, they have a State Department. When America speaks, they speak with one voice to the international community. We don't have that yet. We need to get serious about building that. That's my opening statement.
I'd like everybody to keep an open mind as we dive into this discussion today and understand that there's different points to get to the same point. Not everything is linear, not everything is parallel, not everything is perpendicular or adjacent or skewed or obtuse or any other geometric term. Some shits just come out of left field. Some stuff is right there in front of you. Point being, always have an open understanding and an open mindset as we move forward. It's time to abolish the thoughts and the mental structures that we've had up until now. Because let's be honest, it ain't helping us. So we need to do a lot of self-analysis and look into ourselves as well as look into ourselves as a nation and see what parts and facets of our existence aren't bringing any positivity to us, aren't bringing any growth or progress. And those are the things that we need to abolish and get rid of and never bring back and move forward from there. We can acknowledge it and accept it, but we got to move the fuck forward. We ain't got to linger. So keep an open mind, and you'll be surprised what information and enlightenment you'll receive. That's my opening statement.
Now, for today's show, ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually going to be the one that's going to be sitting back. I'm actually going to be a host. I'm going to put a little bit of my 2 cents in, but I think this is a dialogue where I'm going to let my panel, they're going to have full reign. Yes, I'm going to be the mediator, and just in case anybody get loud, but I think with the three of us, we never had that issue, have that problem. So as well as us, we want you, the viewer, the audience, to also get involved in this conversation, because it's just not the three of us and then 2 other guests that is coming into this show that will also be giving out solutions and ideas. This is your show too. If I haven't preached that much on the show doing that, I apologize. I'm telling you now. Interject. Put out your ideas. Put out your statements. Put out your opinions on what you think we should do from this time forward. There's no longer lollygagging or just sitting around just hoping things would change and hoping that things will happen. Right now, the time is now. And with that, and also sponsors, as you can see right here, product placement. Don't forget to check out realcheddarboypopcorn.com. Locally black-owned Seattle business here. I got the flavors once again, cheddar. So once again, check it out, realcheddarboypopcorn.com, and then also the merch. With that, let's get down to some business, and let's get down to the top story of the day. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Seepaway, I'm going to go on here and give you the honors to introduce this guest for us.
Okay, so joining us is Brother Cliff DeCliff. Brother DeCliff was involved in the very first African Union 6th Region town hall meeting that I hosted back in 2003 when the African Union invited us meaning the African diaspora, to become part of the governing of the continent. And Brother Cliff, since that meeting in 2003, has continued that organizing effort. And I learned a lot from him today. So I thought, if we were going to be talking about solutions, organizing, centralizing, putting together solutions to how to build that. I just thought Brother Cliff, he was saying so much outstanding stuff. I said, brother, you got to come on the show. So that's my introduction to Brother Cliff.
Hey, DeCliff, welcome to #Fade to Black. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm just trying to get this laptop adjusted so that it will provide the least unflattering view of my face.
Oh, don't worry. I got this little light right here. I've been trying to work it to get my chocolate self going on, but I had to do the little spotlight like you being the police and they interrogating you. But other than that, like I said earlier, I'm gonna be more of like the background mediator for this discussion. I will be bringing in my 2 cents, but I'm going to like just bring up like suggestions, bring up questions, and then y'all just take it from there. Once again, it's an honor to have you on the show, DeCliff. Thank you so much for being here. Sip Away, thank you for bringing him on the show. And with that, for anybody who got something to say, for anybody who had the high intelligence, whatever, who wants to come on the show, you are welcome to come on the show. You can let me know. Sip Away and also Beach Johnson. Come on the show.
Yes, please do.
Yes, because this is no longer a conversation. This is a dialogue. So let me go ahead and start off with the first thing. So going up to what you were saying.
Before you do that, Donnell, before you do that, we have to do it right. We have a guest. You already know what I'm about to do.
Go ahead.
On behalf of our other fellow panelists, Dr. O, and from the motherlands of Africa, Imani Wado! And your response is now you are officially part of the show, and we can begin.
All right.
I think that's a great introduction to the show. That should be like our little introduction of welcoming to the panel. I'm gonna write that down. So to go back to what Sipaway was saying about his opening statements about where to go, either we start our own territory here in the States or going to Africa. So I want to start off from right there. So can you elaborate more? So let's say if we found the territory here in the States, what will be the steps? What will be the procedures for us to, when we get this territory, that United States will not interfere in anything? They won't come in and try to bully us around, basically like how they do with the Indian territories. How would that look?
Well, first of all, to achieve something like that, you're talking about a liberation struggle. You're not ready for that yet. Right now, this is a theory. This is an objective that we have to promote and win support. If you were to get enough people, you're going to have various fronts in this. You're going to have your diplomatic front. You're going to have your lawyers and all of that. You're going to have your issues in terms of feeding and housing your people, your defensive people, and things like that. A lot of these questions, if you ask any of the liberation movements from the 60s and 70s, you ask them, what's it going to look like 20 years down the road? Well, they said, well, we have to come up with a government that works for us. So I didn't answer your question straight, and ask it again, right? Ask your question to me again so I can try to answer.
All right, okay. All right. I'll break it down. I'll break it down a little bit more. So let's say we got the territory. Let's say we got the territory, what we need, where we're governed by our own government, governed by our own rules, just like Indian reservation.
Okay.
Well, I have a better question to ask.
Yeah.
Which is more feasible for us at this point? To try to liberate ourselves eternally and find available land within this nation, because that's more along the talks of succeeding.
Yeah, what are the procedures? Yeah, what's the procedure?
Or truly liberating ourselves and finding international land or help. Like which would be a more feasible route for us to go? Because like as I'm hearing the talk, I still hear more of succeeding when we talk about trying to find land here and kind of adapt it to the reservations. And when you talk about succeeding, the only true area in this nation that's able to succeed is Texas. It is because of where they're located and how they're structured. They have their own power power supply.
Power structure.
So
Yeah, and they got their own oil.
they're not beholden by the structure that's set up by the rest of the nation that the government runs. They have their own because they're dead set in the middle. So if we had access to a land like that, then, you know, where either we already have access to those primary infrastructures or we can quickly develop them without any interference from the nation. That's a question I feel like that's the main question we should ask first. Which is a better path to go down? Try to liberate ourselves eternally and find land here, or doing like they said, like Malcolm said, and brushing up on international law and getting that international help that we've tried to gain access to. We've kind of touched at it, but we haven't really been able to grasp and fully access its potential and power.
Yeah, I think that's a better way of phrasing my question. Thank you, Beast Jones. Thank you for that.
So historically, in terms of landing here in America, historically the strategy has been, where are we already the majority, or where is the bulk of our people? So the Republic of New Africa's strategy, for example, was to get the territories just east of Texas. So you have Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina, right? There were 5 states where in the South, that's where we were initially brought to, the masses of our people. So it's technically not correct to say that we need to find land. We already occupy land in the United States. And in those 5 southern states, that's our densest concentration. So liberation theory says, this is land we already occupy. We don't control it. And so the idea would be to struggle to gain control of the land that we already occupy. Now, as a result of the Great Migration, right, in addition to those southern lands, there are cities, entire cities or subsections in those cities where we are already the majority population, where there's a significant number of our people. But that's not contiguous connected land. And there are other efforts, for example, like the Afro Descendants Group that just filed that court case at the commission, the American Commission, which are saying that it is possible to get autonomous control of those areas, even though they're inside of what wouldn't be our national land base. So just to correct that, we don't have to find land. We already occupy land within the United States that we don't control. The answer to your other question is, me personally, maybe Brother Cliff will talk about, I actually think that it's more feasible for us to repatriate to Africa, because I just think it would be less violent.
That's the same mentality I feel. In the grand scheme of things, it would be feasibly and logically easier for us to just quote unquote give them what they want, go back to Africa. I'm sure we could set some kind of, constitution and treaty together that would allow us certain back end benefits in lieu of not publicly talking about, pretty much get the deal like the Jews got for the Holocaust. Instead of giving us money, you can give us money, or you can just give us stock options and percentage cuts on items that we've already created. Give us that controlling stock or partner stock. And in exchange, we won't claim to be American. We'll act like we were never American. We'll act like that whole time there was just one terrible fucking dream and we're finally awake.
Before we continue on with the conversation, Superway, you got to know one of your guests that you have to go ahead and introduce him. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, let me
And we also have
introduce.
Dr. O on here as
Yeah,
well.
man, we got Mr. O. I
Right?
forgot about you, Mr. O.
Fode, I don't know if there's something wrong with the lights in your house, but you looking really dark there. We
Yeah,
can't
you
even
looking.
almost see you. It's like night. But my
Now
good
he's like, bro,
brother,
I'm hiding. I can't let y'all know where I'm at. Things I'm about to say, they can't see nothing distinguishable in the background.
Well, see, since he's showing this shirt, let me go ahead and show mine. Once again, hashtag Faith to Black. We control the narrative.
so brother Fode is my brother, my friend, my colleague, my peer, someone that has enlightened me and has been involved in what we have been calling the lineage restoration movement. Fode has been one of the leading figures of coordinating the efforts of all of our people that have been taking DNA tests and finding out where they come from in Africa and their specific tribes, and regaining that ancestral lineage identity. Brother Fode has been the leading, one of the leading figures, if not the leading figure, to bring us all together so that we can institutionalize and leverage these new identities to leave behind legacies for our children. First and foremost, on the continent of Africa, and then secondary, those that don't want to go to Africa, they still are going to need things too. So I invited both of our guests because they're putting in the work and they can, their involvement in the actual work, I think, gives them really authentic perspectives.
All right, that's great. DeClip, do you have anything to add? I know you've been waiting patiently, so I'm going to get you in here.
Well, as Brother Sipiwe knows, once I get going, I can kind of run off.
You're
So
among
I'm trying to keep
like-minded
that under
individuals.
control.
Right. Don't worry. We had another panelist who's watching right now. Wink, wink. That has that kind of problem. We love you, Teach.
Okay.
And by the way, Brother DeCliffe and Teach know each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Anita?
all right. Oh, okay. I thought. Well, first of all, most people just call me Brother Cliff. It says D Cliff there because that's my Facebook name, and you don't see this when you get onto my Facebook page. You see a picture of my dog, which looks a lot better than I do. But I guess as far as the original question that we were going into, as far as finding a tract of land here in the United States versus, say, repatriation to Africa, I think most of us would think that, practically speaking, finding a tract of land here might be easier, but repatriation to Africa would probably be preferable, A, for cultural reasons, and B, as far as I'm concerned, even if the United States were to decide that they wanted to cede a tract of land for people of African descent to settle upon, and there's no indication that they'd be willing to do that. I'm not 100% sure that you could even trust them to keep to that promise. If one president makes that promise, who knows, the next president can break it. It could be just like the Supreme Court. 1 minute they're on your side, and the next minute they're trying to kill you. Looking at what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921 with Black Wall Street, we had established a community where we were self-sufficient. We weren't even bothering anybody, but there were racist whites who decided that we needed to be eliminated. And so all it takes is for either militaristic members of that community decide they want to come and get you, or the government to just decide that they want to renege on your promises the same way they did with the First Nations. They started breaking treaties the minute before the ink was even dry. So I'm not sure that we could necessarily even trust the United States to abide by the terms of the establishment of the, say, Republic of New Africa if they had granted that. My guess is that if they had granted that back when it was originally being fought for, by now the United States would have already encroached on a lot of that land, if not taken it all together. There's also the situation that occurred, and I don't know as much about this as I should, but in the area of Halifax, Nova Scotia up in Canada, which is another a thought that occurs to some people. I've even given some thought to running to Canada if a certain person got 4 more years in the White House. But there was a community in the area of Halifax, Nova Scotia, which had a large African descendant community there who had escaped slavery back in the day. But there was another area there called Africville, and it had been established for a while, but as far as I understand it, it does not exist any longer as Africville. But that's something I'd have to look up a little bit more. There's actually an old article on Africville on the website of the 6th Region Diaspora Caucus, which is the organization that I'm affiliated with. Going to Africa to repatriate sounds like, I think, probably the most preferable cultural idea. And from what Brother Sipiwe was talking about, he educated me on that in the last day and a half, as far as doing research into our African genealogy, drilling down to, for want of a better word, nation, tribe, village, and finding out what specific ethnic group our ancestors came from. Now, I might have a harder time with that because I'm probably a mixture of a whole bunch of crazy things, as you can probably tell. But if we're able to determine what our lineage is that way, and then bond with that nation and find a way to, say, get that nation to actually take that a step further and back our repatriation to that nation or to that village or to that tribe, then that might be one. Other people are talking about just carving out a piece of the continent, whether it's an area in East Africa, whether it's something under the Ghana Nkwanta Project, which an elder in New York was talking about in 2007, or whether it's just repatriating back to any country that'll take African descendants who want to come home. I guess that's another possibility, but then we just have to make sure that we don't get the Amerigo Liberia syndrome and go back there and say, okay, we're Black people from the United States, and we're going to go back to Africa and, in some people's minds, civilize that area. And that just led to a whole lot of craziness and a lot of upheaval in Liberia, led to some civil wars and a couple of presidents assassinating each other in order to take power. So I'm not sure that we want to just go in there willy-nilly and create a whole lot of upheaval. So in other words, we have to do it in a thoughtful way. And what Brother Sipiwe is talking about sounds like a thoughtful way to do that, as long as those populations back on the mother continent are being as thoughtful and as open-armed as we hope they will be.
Okay. Very thought-provoking right there. I like that. I like it where this is going.
To respond to Brother Cliff, we talked about that Western Americanized mentality that does run in the percentage of Blacks. From my little personal talks and and videos that I've seen on the matter, the general perception and view of America, Black Americans are automatically given the benefit of the doubt until they open their mouth. So if you open your mouth talking that type of rhetoric, you will immediately present yourself as a white American, and ain't no Canadian sticker gonna fix that.
Then it'll be time to regulate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you pretty much, you done showed your ass at that point. Like,
yeah.
They respect us. They understand our plight. A lot of videos have been coming out from different areas in Africa stating that, hey, you can come home.
That's true. I think
so to double back with Sipiwe and the whole genetics, you have actual descendants of your tribe calling out to you, telling you, come home.
Yeah. And this would be a great time for Fo, if you jump in, because this is what Brother Fode has been doing for the last 7 years, and bringing, for example, the Temne people to Sierra Leone, doing projects, being recognized by their people. So why don't you tell them about your experience? I know you have a lot to say about this.
Yeah,
Right?
but before he does that, we gotta get Mr. O up in here because Mr. O, he been chilling like yeah, this sounds good. But what we talking about? So BC Johnson, could you repeat the question that was asked? So Mr. O,
the question we posed. Well, first I gotta do it again because we got Mr. O here and we have another guest.
Yes, that's
so this is how we. So Mr. O, you already know what I'm about to do. Brother, just get in line with A as your response. Imani Wado!
Now, you have
the question. The question we posed is it feasible for blacks in America to repatriate overseas into international land, or try to repatriate / succeed within American soil? Which one would you feel is the more feasible route for us to go down? Find land in America or find land overseas?
Well, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, well, in my opinion, I think that we should all go back to West and Central West Africa, to places where our origins are. But that's my opinion. Everybody doesn't share that opinion, and that's not the opinion of the majority. That's the opinion of a small percentage of us. So, you got those people who they do want to, they feel like this is their land, this is their home, and they either want to integrate back into stay integrated into the American society and hope that the Europeans are gonna finally give them a hug and say we sorry for what we done. We're gonna finally treat you equal. And then you got your people who they actually want their own section of land here in the United States of America. I don't see any problem with that, but I think that the challenge, there's gonna be challenges with all. But I think that it's going to be even bigger of a challenge if the African American population here was to have its own set of land here. It's going to be even more challenging because history shows that. History shows that these people didn't want us to have our own section of land here, really. You understand? So they kind of wanted to keep us under their foothold. So with that, my option, I feel like, is the best option. I don't know about you, brothers, but I feel like we should be repatriating back to West and Central West Africa.
Talk about breaking it to the table. He just didn't break it to the table. He was like dominoes, bones.
Well, like, Mr. O, as the one international voice here, how do you feel? How do you feel about your American brethren? Do you want us to come home, or do you want us to find land over here?
It is an open world. Anybody can emigrate to anywhere the person is received. As a question of repatriation, although times have changed, I lived in Liberia for 3 years. When during James Monroe decided to repatriate people back to Africa, they went to Liberia with guns, with weapons, and then the natives did not want them. They slaughtered the natives until they were able to land in a place called Providence Island in the capital of Monrovia. In fact, after taking over the whole area, they call it Liberia. And then the capital city is called Monrovia, in honor of James Monroe. When I was in Liberia for 3 years, I discovered how they call themselves Americo-Liberians, how they discriminated against the natives. They called them damn countrymen. And those of us from West Africa were called them coasters. The American-Liberian controlled the energy. All the presidents up till the coup were all American-Liberian. It is still a very bitter experience in Liberia till the Civil War. So the idea of repatriating group by group in this modern world, I do not think any nation in that continent will open its door. What can be done is a voluntary migration. Those who find their roots and say, look, I want to stay here, it will be it's much easier because they will have to integrate. And that could open a way. So those who are tired and want to come back to Africa, they can go to Africa. But it has to be a voluntary immigration, not a massive one like the one done under by James Morrow. Africa has its own challenges today. They have their own problem. There is exploitation. If you are going to Africa, you must go and offer something that they can receive, not in money, but in case of investment. Then they will be very proud of you. But the images of the African Americans I see on the streets of America, I do not think, it's just a thinking that any African society will receive them like that. So it is better someone will say, I'm tired of America, let me go back to Africa. And there are many African countries that will give you residency, they will give you citizenship. But you must be able to abide by their own culture and not wanting to change their culture. As regards of getting the land elsewhere, there are thousands of agitation for autonomy all over the world. Even my tribe too is calling for an autonomy for us to have our own nation. We are tired of Nigerians. The Yorubas on October 1st are going to march in different countries in the world that they want to have their own nation, and that Nigeria was a fabrication of the British. We in the Niger Delta also want to break away from Nigeria. Then you have the southeast of the Igbos that want their own Biafran Republic. So Africa is passing through a lot of agitations that I don't even see it as a place that will be ready to receive massive immigration when millions of Africans are running away from Africa. So we have to, it depends on everyone. Let it be free for everyone to choose. Do not force anyone to go and say you want to build a nation. Let it be, if you want, a group of you agree, seize the land, call for international community help. It will be like Northern Ireland that has not been able to break away from England. All over the world, there are about 500 groups that are wanting to break away, now, but all stuck in the United Nations. There is a new one now that I have. People can register with United Nations in Geneva to call them a nation of people who are not allowed to have their nation. And under that banner, you continue to agitate. But the world is evolving fast, where people run away from their country to find refuge in another country. Just last month, a Nigerian immigrant was made a minister of justice in Canada. That is what is going on today. So you see, everybody have to look for where it fits for him and where he's received. But it cannot be something massive. You cannot carry 40 million or 50 million African Americans and say Africa should take it. Where do they go? Where do they fit in? Africa has its own problem.
Of course, we're not suggesting that. Now, if this was the 60s, then that type of mentality would probably be more prevalent. But with the advances in technology and understanding and just access to knowledge, what you're looking at now would be more of a, let's say, we come together, we give them the or else, we have a unified or else, and the most logical plan would be to give them options. Hey, this is what we're we're doing. We have these three options that we're demanding, and these three options are things that you can get behind. Now, for options for the migration, for those that want to go back and repatriate to Africa, in correlation with the United Nations, who is pretty much set up the same way as the government, you have every country in Africa has their own delegate, along with brothers like Sipwe in genealogy and genetics. You get your actual genetic match to your country of origin. Then you can link up with that corresponding nation delegate, do the necessary paperwork and qualifications to repatriate to that particular land. Instead of having, like you say, 50 million people coming in, it may just be a couple thousand, couple tens of thousands, or maybe 100,000 max at a time. But they're not going all to the coast and then trying to funnel their way through. No, you may have 2,500 go to Ghana. You may have 7,000 go to South Africa. You may have a combined 13,000 along the West Coast. They're going in a spread-like pattern, so it's not a immediate impact on the nation. Now, as far as those that want to stay, you have that option to stay. You have the option to stay, and you have the option to stay and deal with what's going on, but you can't complain.
Okay.
Yes,
So
Ghana has opened its door to those who want to come back home. That is what I heard.
okay.
Ghana
Go ahead.
has-
For example, with Ghana, in order for those to go into Ghana, they will first have to get a DNA test to see if their actual genetic code and genealogy traces back to Ghana or the corresponding area.
Okay. Let's let 4 Days step in.
So I want to clarify something for Brother O. That's not my standpoint, and I think that some of the things said, these things are already going on. For example, with Ghana, you don't necessarily have to take no DNA test. They have their own process to let people go, right? Sierra Leone, the place where I trace my roots to the Timini people. And several of us have already been given dual citizenship in that country based off of us tracing our roots. So my standpoint is this, is that we have the technology now to where we can find a portion or a piece of our ancestry. So that, like, for example, somebody traces their roots to the Yoruba, then we should be linking them with Yoruba people in Nigeria. Everybody's not going to go.
Exactly.
Right, somebody traces their roots to the Igbo people, to the Igbo, then they should be going down to Oreri with the Igbo people. Somebody who traced their roots to the house of the Fulani, they should be going to the house in the Fulanis. Somebody who traced their roots to the Mandinka or the Balanta, they should be going back to those places where those people are, and you be received and integrate back inside those societies and learn the language and culture. To go back as, for example, for me, as a Timni or as a Mandinka or as a Fula, and not just to go back as an African American. Now, this is already happening. This is not something it's an idea. It's already happening, manifest and professed, and it's going to keep happening. So
that's true.
What kind of statement is a more public, unified structure.
Yeah, it's already going on.
A lot of brothers know what's going on, but they don't know who to actually or how to actually go about asking to even go along that path. So it's very intimidating when you look around your current surroundings and you be like, I can't think of anybody personally that might even be able to point me in that direction. So you have individuals like yourself and Sipwe that were able to do that. But because what I'm trying to say is, it's there, and I know it's there. We need to get a unified public structure that everybody knows. Like, hey, you want to do this? This is what you need to do.
All right.
This is where you need to go.
Let me
Go ahead, Sipwe. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Sipwe.
and first I want to congratulate Professor O, because I believe he said something sensible, and I finally agree with Professor O. It is.
Thank God I blew that smoke out right there. Oh, that was gonna kill me.
It's a choice. Okay. And The unifying element has been constant. For example, at the moment of our emancipation, it was the same choice that we have now. You could, A, stay in America and try to integrate and become a full citizen. You could try to return to your ancestral homeland. You could go to a third-party country like Canada or Haiti or something like that. And then the fourth option was to try to establish a nation of your own within the territory of America. Those were the four options available to us at emancipation that we are still talking about now. At the moment of emancipation, what should have happened then and what should still happen now is conducting a plebiscite. And this brings together that one vehicle, that unity, meaning if you could get enough international support to admit this crime of genocide is being committed. As a result, we have these victims over here. They all have the right to self-determination, which means if you decide for yourself that staying and integrating into America is what's best for you, then you need to do that and be given all the resources so that you can lead a full and meaningful life if that's possible in the United States. If you decide for yourself that what's best for you is to return to your ancestral homeland, you need to be given the resources to be able to do that. If you want to go to another, a third-party country, then that has to be negotiated. You can't, if you want to go to France or Canada or Costa Rica or something like that. And if you want to develop a nation of our own, right, then you have that self-determination right. What we have failed to do is to struggle for the right to self-determination. And the international legal process for doing that is the plebiscite. This is what they told Malcolm to do. When Malcolm X went to the Organization of African Unity and met with the 33 African leaders, they said, you need to go back to America and you need to create a vehicle that speaks with one voice to represent all the diverse interests, because we're not going to talk to all these different groups. You need a vehicle with one voice. This was the mission that Malcolm was given in 1964 when he went to the Organization of African Unity. It was the same mission, right, that I inherited when I went to the African Union in 2003 and was the only member of the African diaspora in the room when they amended the Constitution to say we want to include the diaspora. If we were to unite and say, look, we're going to leverage the unity of strength. What we're going to demand is an internationally supervised plebiscite so that we can determine this is what the process for can be intimidating. I don't know who to, if I want to go to Africa, I don't know who to ask or what to do. You have a plebiscite where you can determine, okay, of the 47 million, you got 5 million want to go to Africa, and these are the places they want to go.
All right.
Got 11 million want to establish a nation here. The rest want to integrate. We haven't done, going through that process can be the uniting force or factor because we can all agree on it. It's self-determination. What you decide, I want for you what I want for myself, which is the ability to decide my future destiny.
All right. Okay. So everybody back to your corners. Anybody have an alibi on this topic? Because we got somebody that wants to join in.
Yes, look, I just want to add, there is a venue. First of all, you have to write a project. There is a venue that could be very useful for this matter, just like I did in 1984 in Argentina in 1983 when I created the Argentine Committee for the Independence of Namibia and Eradication of Apartheid. You don't need to be 100. 10 of you draft a proposal of what you want and create an NGO and register it with United Nations. The UN will pick it up and begin to sponsor various conferences in various countries in the world to see the problems some African Americans have and then get ideas from all over the world and how to achieve a goal.
We've done that. We have a number of organizations, meaning African Americans, there's a number of organizations that have done that.
Then work with us.
Registered with the United Nations.
And the UN is doing nothing about it. Then knock the doors of the UN. That is the best way.
I agree with you. They're not doing anything about it.
But that is where you have to fight first. Because in that UN, there are African ambassadors. I'm just to let you know, we are already there. We're already there fighting there. That's what I'm saying. Diplomats are terrible human beings. No, those African Professor,
I was just letting you know. I'm just letting you know we're there already.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Owo, real quick.
I want American born children. Then you are telling them they don't want trouble. That is the problem we have.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and take this quick break. Everybody get a breather, and then we're gonna bring in Teach in this piece. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Wet Network is coming soon. But I cannot believe she is on. Ladies and gentlemen, her long-awaited return. Ladies and gentlemen, Anita Jope, aka Teach. How are you doing, Teach?
I'm doing well, and I see you all just cannot get along without me.
Hold up.
You just can't.
First we about 2 shots from my Brady Bunch set up over here.
Yeah, let me do this right, y'all. She deserves her whole screen, okay? The table, the chairs is all yours.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Cliff, it's good seeing you. Sleepaway, thank you for bringing him on. Professor O, I miss you dearly. And Beast, I love you, miss you. Donnell, I miss you. And the other guests, I'm not familiar. I think we're Facebook friends. I'm not sure, but I think we are. But anyway, I've been listening to part of the conversation, and I want to, apologize for my prolonged absence. I have been very busy in other projects, and hopefully these projects will tie up in the next week or two, and I can be back in full form. But anyway, I just wanted to come on very quickly and just chime in concerning migration or African Americans or any of the Africans throughout the diaspora who desire to go back to Africa. And as some of you know, I have traveled to 28 different African countries, and it is my hope and my dream that one day I will, in fact, repatriate. One of the things that I consider that I think is very, very important. Anyone that's considering moving to Africa, I really think they need a culture and diversity course. And what I mean is this: African Americans as well as Africans, we make some assumptions. And the assumptions are we're Black, we think alike. Well, that is a great, great misnomer. We're Black and we're diverse, and we do not think alike. We have different cultural patterns, different cultural mores, different judgment, different ways that we think is right. And every way could be right, but it's the way you think it. And the way I think is right, you may think is wrong as two left shoes. And so you fall into adversity because you never took the time to learn the culture and the diversity of all of the various African cultures. So I would suggest that you visit. My very first trip to Africa was in 1997. And in that trip, I visited 5 different countries. And the name of that trip was called The Faces of Africa. And that's when I learned the various cultures. Some cultures you'll go to, you will love. The people will embrace you. You will enjoy the food. You enjoy the camaraderie. Other countries, other cultures, you go like, oh no, I don't ever have to come back to this country ever again. So it comes down to personal choice beyond your DNA test. If you want to do your DNA test, that's an added plus. It gives you a connection, a willingness to connect. But I think getting into the community and finding a community that will be friendly to you is vitally important. And then the second thing, which ranks really with this first thing, is imperialism. Many of us do not realize it. We have been 100% thoroughly indoctrinated in the imperialistic view that America emanates. You have to check your imperialism in at the door. When you go to JFK or the Hartford Atlantic Airport, any international airport, to take that flight across the Atlantic, you need to check that imperialism and keep it here in America. Because one, it will not fly in Africa. And you'll find yourself at odds with the people. No disrespect to the lady that was killed a few years ago. She was at odds with the community, and she disappeared. Okay? So you have to know where you're planting yourself or repatriating yourself. You have to understand the culture and understand the people and where they're coming from. You cannot come with me, American, going to teach you African the better way of life. No, if anything, you share whatever it is you think you know, and you go and sit down and listen and be taught. And in this teaching, you have an opportunity to do one thing. And that is, as a person born in the diaspora, you have a chance to come and do what my grandmother used to say, get with yourself. Okay? It's going to be a learning process. So you come and get with yourself by indulging into the various African cultures. 2, livelihood. You have to be well determined on A, opening up a business for yourself that you can thrive and survive, or B, if you have a high caliber skills that country needs, you can find a job. But it may be easy, may not, depending on the country and depending on their needs and skill capacity at that time. So you have to be very well thought out. Now, if you're a retired person and you're getting a pension, just go, because your money is coming. You don't have to worry about that. But also make sure that when you go, you have to surround yourself around people that mean well to you and for you. In my experience, people will surround themselves around me because I'm an American. For them, American means dollar signs, okay? Which means that they want to position themselves to take your dollars. So you have to be very careful as to who you let into your inner circle. You're going to have to let people in to help you navigate. And then 3 or 4, I forgot the number. If you are a female, you have to be aware of the African culture and women's role in society. Being an African American female, being your own boss is great in America. It may be great in Europe. But when you go to Africa, you have to remember that the society is ordered differently. And I'll give you an example Many of you know I'm married to a Muslim man, and anytime and anywhere I go, when I'm introduced, just for me, for them, I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but it's a head game. I always tell the people that my husband gives me permission to speak. African American women, oh no, I ain't asking my husband, that can I speak? But it's a head game. I know if I go into a Muslim society, they will not hear me. They'll say, where's your husband? Why are you speaking? So this is when you have to really know the culture that you're indulging in. So my husband taught me. So whenever I go to a Muslim country, I simply tell them my husband gives me permission to speak. I may not have even talked to my husband. He may not even know, that I'm at a certain meeting or whatever have you, but I learned the game. You have to be aware of who your audience is and be able to navigate wherever you're at. In some countries, women can't purchase property. So you would have to befriend a male that you really have to trust to be able to negotiate buying land for you, or to negotiate a contractor to build your house. So a single African-American female may find herself very frustrated. She may find herself very minimized because she's been that strong, independent female in America. But when you come to Africa, they're like, where's your husband? Where's your man? And then if he recognizes you don't have a husband, then you just might have one by the morning if he can do what he want to do with you. So you have to be careful with that too. Okay. So these are things to absolutely know when you want to repatriate to a particular country. Some countries will give you a very good vibe. Some countries will say, oh no, I don't like those people. I don't like, you can't connect with them. And I'll tell you, my husband's country, Senegal, that was the very first country that I visited. And I swore I never had to go to that country again. And this was well before I met him. Because for me, the people weren't friendly. For me, the people saw me as merchandise. I was an American. I was on a tour with other Americans, and all they saw was dollar signs. How can they get money from me? And for me, that was a bad taste in my mouth. I'm sitting here trying to rediscover my roots, and you trying to figure out how to get money out of me. If I want something, I'll buy it. But they were so cold and so bold, they would say, can I be your friend? You're like, well, sure, you can be my friend. He said, well, that'll cost you $10.
Huh? Hold on. Whoa,
That's core talk. That's Vegas core talk right there.
Oh, let me jump on in.
That is Vegas core talk right there.
Hold
Need
on.
a friend for the evening? Want to buy me a drink?
No.
Wow. I had to get that back in there. But go ahead, teach.
No. So you have to be careful with what the situations that you find yourself in. And like I said, for that particular country, I didn't like. But my God, take me to Angola. Take me to Ghana. Take me to Cameroon. I'm there. I'm there. I am absolutely there. I found communities that lifelong friends that I trust. And anytime on the continent, I contact them and I let them know, here, I'm in this country. I'm in that country. If something go down, I need you to call back to the US. I have people that will look out for me. Because it got to the point, I think I said this one other time, the last time that I was in Africa, I had to start hiring bodyguards, okay? And because it's just because of the status, because of the prestige, because I'm an American, because of the type of meetings that I'm involved in, makes me a target. And so I have to be careful in the ways that I travel. But so that's all I want to say.
Oh no, geez, it's a lot more that you want to say. Go ahead, Mr. O.
Yes. Thank you very much, Anita. I listened to a different Anita tonight. No, it was perfect. It was honest, very eye-opening. In fact,
excuse me,
she took the words from me and said it better. You know, you see, it depends on the societies, but yes, there will be a cultural clash. The best way is to do it like an immigrant. You travel, you land there, you're able to sustain yourself and say you want to stay. Then you can integrate. There's no, look, I say, please record this one well. Everything that Anita has spoken, transcribe it, and it could be a patron of understanding how Africa is and how those who wants to go back can really study it well before they take that decision, or else they stay in America and win in America.
And which we're all what Cheech was saying. I want to get Forday up in here. Forday, what do you have to say with all of what Cheech was speaking on?
Oh man, I don't know if you seen my face. I've been taking people back and forth to Sierra Leone the past few years, and everything that the sister's saying is true. If you didn't see my face, I was praising what the sister was saying. It's very much true. And I want to touch on one thing that she was saying that was very, very important to me, is that what she said about the women, that goes vice versa for men too. Because, we have this thing here in America amongst our women here, where from this women's rights, we have this like matriarchal, I want to say matriarchal phenomenon going on, where it's like this women's worship thing, and I'm a high and mighty woman and things like that. And I try to explain to people that, when I go back to my people in Sierra Leone, it's a patrilineal society, but my direct chief is a woman who has men under her. But you know what? She rules, she governs, but she's still a woman, right? She still cooks food for people when they come around and guests. She still does her womanly duty. She's still a mother. You see what I'm saying? She still is a woman, and she was trained to be a woman, and she never left that training just because she became a chief or a ruler. And I think it's a great example that I can teach my sisters over here that want to go back to West Africa, because what the sister was saying was so key with that. And it goes the same with the brothers. We got certain things that we have been taught and we learned over here in America, and it's just that's just not it. That's not the way the society is formed. So I agree with her 100% when she was saying, you going back to these places, you should try to get into, learning the language, the culture, and how these people live before you start, puffing your chest out. I've seen some things, from me taking people back and forth, and I think a lot of people don't get it because they have that I'm an American mentality, even though they think that they're not going there like that. The Africanism that was taught in America is not the Africanism or the society of African people or how people live there on the continent. They have their own ways of life, and it varies from group to group. And I think that those values that those people have should be respected, whether it's the way the men live or the way the women live. And if you are going back to these places, those should be respected. I think we have a lot of romanticism that goes on inside of the Black community when it comes to Africa. And I completely agree with what the sister said. I have nothing advisory to say to what the sister had to say. Everything was on point.
Anybody else got anything to add?
I want to touch on an interesting point that Teach made about the different cultures and understanding where you're going. And it's kind of funny with Brother Cliff too. You got individuals that are dark as me and have multiple tribes and lineages within their blood. So, by taking that time to educate yourself and really find out who you are, where you come from, yeah, you might trace your heritage back to just Ghana, but you also might trace it back to 2 or 3 other, countries as well, giving you more options where to particularly repatriate. Like you might go to Senegal and you might say, "Hey, I'm traced back to Senegal," but I don't like that vibe. I also find out that you got a percentage of it from Sierra Leone as well as Ethiopia, and you might favor those two better. Well, now you got 2 options that you could actually repatriate to, and the area. You're already familiar with the people and the customs and the culture. So I just go back to my point. Calm down, sir. I go back to my point of just educating yourself and take the test. If you're interested in going back to Africa, definitely take the test to know what part of Africa you should go back to and what part of Africa you really need to brush up on in all aspects.
Brother Cliff, you got anything to add?
Well, among the things this went to a whole lot of different places.
It happens.
The most recent thought that popped into my head is that if we're going to, in general, repatriate back to the motherland, the first thing we should make sure we don't do is behave like it's War of the Worlds. If you remember the way that whole science fiction story developed, the Martians or the aliens or whatever, they come to Earth, and after they come to Earth and they establish a foothold, the first thing they do is they start changing the environment to suit them. And that's, I think, the essential characteristic of imperialism that we almost subconsciously carry with us. We go somewhere, and instead of going to that place to experience that place as it is, it's almost as though we want to bring our cheeseburgers and our Diet Cokes with us and establish those in that new place where we are. So we don't really so much want to learn how to live in that new place. It's just that we want to get away from the old place where we were the oppressed ones, and we want to take that oppression, and instead of being the oppressed ones, we want to apply it where we are. It's sort of like, instead of being the one on the bottom, we don't mind the system, we just don't like the fact that we're at the bottom. So we go somewhere else where we think we can be on top, and then we impose that system there. And I think that's part of the problem that happened. Part of the problem that happened in Liberia is part of the problem I think happens in some other places where a lot of us go and arrogantly keep our Western civilized mindset with us. As far as the getting back a little bit to the question of staying here and integrating versus carving out some land here versus finding a place on the continent and which one we should do, I'm not certain that the situation is such that we necessarily have to make a choice among those different options. We could still keep all of those options open. Just because, say, for instance, I may decide that I want to stay here in Maryland where I live for various reasons. Maybe family is here, maybe my livelihood is here, maybe I'm just accustomed to mowing my lawn every 2 weeks the way I've been doing. Okay, just because I may want to stay here doesn't mean that, for example, I no longer believe that African people must unite. Doesn't mean that I believe that Africa must throw off the chains of imperialism and exploitation. And just because I may move back to a specific African country, just because I may link with a particular village or nation or ethnic group on the continent, again, doesn't necessarily mean that just because I conclude that I'm Bantu and I'm going to go and live with the Bantu people and the Bantu people accept me, doesn't mean that I don't believe that the entire continent of Africa needs liberating. So it doesn't take away from any concepts of Pan-Africanism that I may already have. So it's not necessarily a case of either or. It can be any combination of those, as long as I think the overarching objective and the overarching purpose remains intact. And if that overarching objective and purpose is just for me to get mine, well, then to some degree, I don't care what you do. But if the overarching purpose that you have in mind is to move our people, move African people along a little further on the road to reparation, to self-determination, to being able to handle our own affairs, to liberate our resources, to have our people have an equal voice on the world stage, then at that point you could choose any of those options. Choosing one of those options doesn't make you suddenly not someone who, say, for instance, wants to see the United States of Africa, though I don't like that name. The Pan-African Federalist Movement refers to the United African States, or UAS. And they don't even just talk about the 55 nation states on the continent. They talk about the 55 nation states on the continent and any country around the world where the preponderance of the population is people of African descent. And so they're talking about creating a Pan-African federation of all of those countries. You may be looking at something like that. All of those are potentially, I guess, game-changing Pan-Africanist ideals, and it doesn't necessarily matter at that point whether you live in the United States and you're fighting for Pan-Africanism, whether you're living in Canada and you're fighting for Pan-Africanism, whether you have created the Republic of New Africa and the United States doesn't turn around and abrogate that deal 5 years later, or whether you move back to the African continent. So I would just say that you've got all those options open. I think the key is going to be what's our mind and I can't remember whether it was Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah or someone else who says that you're not an African because you're born in Africa, you're an African because Africa's born in you. So I think as we...
That's deep right there.
Yeah, as long as we keep that first and foremost in our minds, then to a degree, it may not so much matter where we are physically, as long as we recognize that unless Africa is free and all of Africa's scattered children are free, then we've still got a lot of work to do. And especially when you look around the world and you see all of the things that happen to us, from police brutality to militias, to political instability, to poor disaster response, to mass incarceration, to environmental racism and displacement. It happens to us everywhere. It happens to us in France. It happens to us in the Netherlands with Black Pete. It happens to us in Brazil. We make up like 100 and some million of us in Brazil. The police brutality rate there is 5 times as high as it is here in the United States. So wherever we are, we're facing the same adversaries, the same challenges, and the same enemies. I think the key is wherever we are, we start to realize that, and we begin to work toward the unity of African people everywhere around the planet. Then at that point, hopefully once Africa has been liberated and freed and African people around the world can take our voice to the world stage in an effective way through the United Nations, the African Union, or some independent society organization we create ourselves, then a lot of the difficulties and issues around, okay, well, which option do we choose? Well, the plate will be there. The plate will be there, and it'll be there for us to choose what we want to pick from.
All right. So
I feel like that also help. I kind of threw this out there a show or two ago, like for those that want to repatriate and go overseas and go to Africa. Those that remain here, that still fighting the fight, still in collaboration, they receive a title, like some kind of title, like ancestral African emissary, basically meaning that I go overseas. My family that's still here, they are now international emissaries. They have the say so to allow any type of legal documents that are still attached to me in America. They have that legal right to okay it, deny it, hide it, do whatever. If I get into a situation that requires American help or assistance, that's my emissary. That's where I need that's where I can go to. And instead of having just one place, anybody that repatriates their family is now that place for them, or the individuals that they designate, kind of like your international in case of emergency. But it's a fancy title, and everybody like titles, so like I'm an emissary. Hey, I got a cousin over in Ethiopia, baby. Some shit go wrong, they call me.
Speaking of titles, this water is pretty good. Yeah, just saying. So, which leads to my next segment. I'm just gonna say it, and I don't care if it's American or creating our own. Politics. Floor is open.
True, unadulterated, democratic, tribal people. We can have one person that is eloquent enough to speak on our behalf on a grand scheme, but that is all they are. You are the Speaker of the House. You do not hold any true power over us. You're just the most eloquent person that could formulate and sum up what everyone is saying. I'm cool with that, but all quote unquote politics should be by the people, for the people. You know exactly what's going on and you vote on it. We're not having, it should be more consistent of like town meetings instead of representatives. That's how I feel.
All right. Floor is open. Go ahead, Michelle.
Well, me
sorry.
personally.
Sorry. Go on for that. I apologize. I thought it was Mr. O.
That's okay. I was gonna say, me personally, I'm not really into politics like that. But as far as African Americans, I feel like, and this is my opinion, that African Americans need to be more educated when it comes to politics and get more organized from a family perspective, because we all over the place, and amongst ourselves, we all over the place. But the people who are running these political corporations, this political game, they got us backed into a corner. So I feel like we need to be more educated when it comes to politics and more organized from a smaller scale that connects us all together. I think that would change the way when it comes to politics according to the African American.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you. We should be on top of politics. I think that's the one, other than our history. Politics,
we just need to learn as black folks how to relate the material. Like I was saying, politics ain't nothing but seeing who can talk the slickest shit.
Right.
Most true politics is about backhand deals and presenting it one way. It's like three-card money. It's like, hey, I'm going to give you this deal over here, and you're looking for that deal over here, but you're not seeing these other two side deals that I got set up, and your vote could be up under one of these three. Which one is it? Which one is it? Which one is it?
Right, which leads to the point of knowing your politics, knowing that you're getting gypped, that you're being fooled, that you're basically looking in the mirror and you're the sucker. So
We should take it a step further.
Step on.
Not just learn politics. We should learn the vernacular and the vocabulary. Learn the words that's being used. So when you hear them in day-to-day conversations, or you hear them amongst conversations with yourself, you know what they're really trying to say to you.
Yes.
Speaking of vocabulary, there are two definitions, and they're tongue-in-cheek, but there are two definitions with which I've become familiar. The first one is the definition of politics, and actually it's not so much the definition of politics as it is the derivation of politics. Politics stemming from two key root words: poly, for many, ticks, blood-sucking creatures. The other one, is more of a definition, and it is the definition of democracy. And it's a cynical definition, of course. Democracy is defined by some as two wolves and one sheep voting on what's for dinner. And I have a backstory for that, is that there used to be 10 sheep, but the wolves ate 5 of them. And as a result of the wolves having already eaten 5 of them, 4 of the remaining 5 were afraid to go to the polls. So you wound up with 2 wolves and 1 sheep voting on what's for dinner. The problem that we as people of African descent have is that we keep on trying to hitch our wagon to either the donkey or the elephant. And depending on what we think is in fashion or what we think is in our own personal best interest, we will hook our wagon to that donkey or that elephant. And that's the only thing we want to think of. So as a result, you've got some people who will cite, for example, just looking at American politics, Donald Trump, who some people have referred to, I have heard as Orange Thanos, having allotted a record amount of funding to HBCUs. Now, I don't know that it was that much more than Obama had done, which is the previous record, but still, Donald Trump has been credited with having given more money to HBCUs than any other president. Again, that there's some details behind that, devil's in the details, that I have to check out and make sure whether or not that's really true, whether that really happened on the ground. But those people will look at that. They'll look at the First Step Act, which Trump signed, but he didn't write. And then they'll look at the claims of unemployment and the claims of this and the claims of that. And they'll point to those things and those things alone, ignore the COVID-19 response, ignore the denial of science, ignore the denial of climate change, ignore his embrace of police, no matter how brutal they may be to our people. And they'll say that Donald Trump is my guy. There are other people who are in the blue no matter who column, where they're going to just grab a hold of Biden because, well, he's better than Trump. And they'll pay little attention to Biden's prior missteps as far as the crime bill about 2 decades ago, Kamala Harris's record as a prosecutor. They won't pay attention to those things. So they'll just go to those. In other words, they take a very simplistic approach to who they're going to support for that particular office. And then the other thing is the way they approach it overall. They keep on, and I think the biggest mistake that we make as a people, especially here in the United States, is that we think what we're doing is that we're voting for our hero to go up against our villain. In other words, whoever we vote for, that's the person who is 100% on our side, and we're going to back that person. And the other person on the other side is Simon Legree, is the evil one that we must fight against. And the problem with that is that you even take a look at the Obama presidency. The Obama administration is who bombed Libya. And when they bombed Libya, Gaddafi was killed, the African Union was largely defunded, and arms wound up in the hands of ISIL and Boko Haram. So even the first black president, even our hero, the Obama administration, did some things that were extremely injurious to Africa. Whether he intended to or not, that happened. So we have to recognize that a president, especially here in the United States, is going to do what a president does. A president is going to be like a cat climbing the curtains. The cat's going to climb the curtains eventually. You know that's going to happen. So either you take a look at the cat, and if you're going to pick up a cat, you're going to say, well, if I got to deal with a cat, let me deal with the cat that maybe doesn't have as thick a claws as that one does. I'll take the cat with the shortest claws, or the cat that looks like he's less likely to climb my curtains, or I go get a dog. The analogy there is, instead of deciding I want my hero as opposed to that villain, maybe instead what we should be doing, especially if we look at Biden versus Trump, realize that either one of them is going to be our adversary at some point once they get in the White House. And the question then becomes, which one would we rather have to fight for the next 4 years?
Who's the easier fight?
I'm rooting for my hero. No. I'm rooting to decide which one I got to deal with. And if I think I can deal more effectively with a Biden than a Trump, then if I got to vote for one of the two, I vote for that one. And I vote for that one realizing that I'm not picking my buddy. I'm deciding which one I'm going to fight. The alternative is for us to build our own independent Black political party. And in Maryland, there actually is one. They're trying to get officially on the ballot. They're called the Ujima People's Progress Party. And they are forming a Black worker-led political party. And so until we're able to really develop that independent Black political party, we've tried to do it a number of times with NBIP and with Umoja and now with Ujima. Until we're able to do that, I would say the healthier way for us to look at elections and politics is to, first of all, understand, as was said before, what the issues are, understand the vocabulary, understand what these politicians are out here trying to do to us, and figure out how are we going to position ourselves so that we can better influence the atmosphere or the environment we got to deal with for the next 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, and vote according to that, not vote according to who we think is going to be our buddy.
Brother Cliff, if you don't mind, after the show, provide more information on that group. I would love to push that on this show.
I saw your face when he said that.
Yes, because I honestly did not know that I knew in
We've been preaching it.
Yeah, in the mainstream media, because I've always been the one said for us to at least control the system, or at least getting our say out there, we should have a super PAC. That's why I always say Black Lives Matter should have became a super PAC. But hearing that we already got a party in place in Baltimore, now Baltimore is Baltimore, Maryland is a chocolate city itself.
You
So
see,
go ahead, Michelle.
Let
Michelle go ahead, Michelle. And then
they're still struggling to get on the ballot, but
very
building
illustrative.
that party now.
Very illustrative indeed. And is now fundamenting of what I had said before. What Cliff has spoken is called participative democracy.
Yeah.
So that is what we need, not tearing the system down. Participative democracy. When we have a grant, then we can negotiate, we can strike deals for our people. That's what he's saying is what we should go with. And let them know. Look, but then let us not be offended if another one call itself white party. We compete. Let us take up our people. That is the way out. That is participative democracy. Thank you very much, Cliff. You made my evening.
Come on, I thought I was to make your evening.
I thought some beer for you. Did you see my glass? I thought some beer for you.
I'm supposed to be the one to make you there. Oh my gosh. Okay. I see how it is.
I would say that the powers that be, if we were to truly work to institute participative democracy, the powers that be, at least some of them, would look at that and they would conclude that we are then trying to destroy the system. That in their minds, that would be destroying the system. But that's
the perceptive image.
Yeah, I understand Grenada once had participative or participatory democracy. I'm told that it had something along those lines when Maurice Bishop was there, until of course he was eliminated.
See, go ahead, jump in. Yeah, Wade, and then Forte, I'll let you jump in.
I'll yield the floor to my brother Forte.
I was just gonna say, if I can kind of elaborate on what I was just saying, I think it kind of goes with what Brother Cliff was saying. When I was saying that, our people need to understand the political structure of America, the corporate structure of America. Most of our people don't understand that, and I think if I'm gonna just put this out there, I think that, one group of people who have a charter here in this country, who have got a lot of things done according to themselves or what they stand for, is the LGBT community.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? So, and they have a charter that represents that.
Yep.
We don't have. That's why I was saying we don't have those. We don't have a charter where somebody in Brother DeMonte or Sipaway's family is really a part of the say-so. I know we got the NAACP, but who is all in the say-so on what's going on? Every time something happens, Al Sharpton goes up there, he's speaking for everybody, and ain't none of us involved or know how to be involved. So I think that not just one political party, but several charters that could be working together need to be formed to help different families of African Americans around this country.
I'm telling y'all.
I would like to chime in.
Yeah, go ahead, Teach, because I'm feeling the spirit over here.
As far as politics are concerned, I believe that the two major parties represent two different evils of the same coin. I feel that I feel a contradiction when our ancestors laid down their lives for us to have the right to vote, the right to raise our voice, the right to pick and choose and become a part of this system. That's a major contradiction for me, because I do not believe in the Republican Party, neither the Democratic Party. And it is a wish that if African Americans can establish a party to raise that voice, to be in competition to these other parties, that's where my loyalties would lie. Given the current situation, I look at the policies and how they affect myself as well as family members. And if those policies are detrimental to my own livelihood, I can't agree with that party. There's no way that I can vote for someone that is enacting laws against me. So for me, politics is a necessary evil. I really don't like politics. I really don't. But we participate on the side instead of at the and
sorry about that, Cheech. Sorry about that. But go ahead, Mr. Odin, to
yes, you see, in addition, you remember last time I spoke of grassroots. What Cliff have just revealed to us is the grassroots that I'm talking about.
Is that a dollhouse?
America allows for
that was my dog.
So if we have such a black party, once they are able to take control of the council, of the mayorship, they can float members of the Congress, and then they begin to increase. That is where we have people who really represent us. I once again thank Steve and the other brother, the new one, Forte also have been mentioning what I said in the beginning. but maybe you are not listening to him. He used the word family. The African American, our community has to know how to build family. Is the source, it is the strength. Plinius, the Roman lawyer, said, is the family that grew up to be a state. It is the root. We also have to know how to build family. So when we have our political party and rally family together, we become strong. And then we fight it up. That is what I think is more viable than all the other alternatives we have been speaking this evening. Thank you, Cliff.
Go ahead, Sipaway.
Okay. So, one, Cliff made an interesting point when he said if you take the approach of asking yourself, I'm electing the person that I prefer to fight. If you take that approach, then an argument could be made that it is better to have a clear enemy to fight. And it would be better to have Trump in the office because now I have a clear target, right? I know where they stand. We are in complete opposition. And it's easier to fight the enemy if you can identify and see them. So the argument could be made that that might be better than constantly being tricked and confused by people that talk like they're our friends, but then go behind closed doors and do things against us. Now, one thing that came to mind during this discussion is you have to put everything into a historical context. We've been engaged in participatory democracy, so-called, since emancipation. Okay? Now, I would argue that that phrase participatory democracy in the context of the United States is a false concept because the United States is not a democracy. Now, what I heard everyone saying earlier in our discussion was everyone was saying that there's a problem with the mentality. For example, you have this imperialist indoctrination that makes African Americans go to Africa with a certain mentality. Then we heard about the Africans and their mentality of looking at us as ATM cash machines. So there's mental issues on both sides. Now, for those of us on this side of the Atlantic, okay, you have to ask the question, the very fact that I'm even discussing American politics and how to participate in it is because of a crime that was committed against me. Now, my father told me, if you want to solve a problem, you got to go to the origin of it. Origin of our problem is that the crime of genocide was committed against a specific person who was a member of a specific family, lived in a specific territory, practiced a specific culture, from which he had a specific spirituality. The crime of genocide and the crime of trafficking, okay, severed us from all of our natural connections. So it does us no good to discuss politics if we are not properly orientated to the political system we're talking about. If we really are mentally damaged and we are claiming that as a result of the genocide and the 7 generations of suffering it, that we need repair, not just monetary repair, spiritual repair, because there are ancestors in the ancestral realm that are continuing to suffer because we, the living right here, have forgotten them and haven't done the things that we need to do as spiritual beings to bring about the healing so that we can get from them what we need. In our entire discussion about going back to Africa, nobody mentioned that duty that we have. There are rituals that need to be performed. Okay? So, again, if you want to talk about grassroots and you want to talk about institution building and you want to tie it together to that thing, this is what the lineage restoration movement is doing. Everyone was saying you can't just go back to Africa until you kind of learn the culture, as teachers say. Well, if we don't have institutions like a Bolanta institution set up to teach Bolanta descendants in America about the Bolanta culture and about Bolanta language before they go, if we don't have Temene institutions to teach people about, because if you say, okay, I want to go to Sierra Leone, and if you say you want to go there, and you need to know something about that culture before you go, right? You're going to need institutions created by us, by those of us that have gone, those of us that have the experience on the continent, like myself, like Fode, like Teach was saying, where you understand if you go this way, you're a target. If we don't build those kinds of institutions, and this goes along with what Professor O is saying, grassroots, that are geared towards that. But this political thing that we're discussing now, if you're not properly orientated about it, looking at it from the outside, looking at it for what it is, and all you know is from the inside, and the miseducation and indoctrination that you have, and now you try to participate in a very political system that was designed to commit and perpetuate genocide, I have to ask the question, why are you trying to participate in that genocidal system? To give an analogy, right, if a rape is taking place and the person that is doing the rape is convincing you, okay, you have two options, right? You can either rape with me now or you can rape with me later. I'm not participating in that. And a wise man once told me, you cannot have a healthy mind and a healthy spirit and a healthy soul and a healthy body in a sick society. So before we engage in this whole political thing between Biden and Trump and all of that, if we don't have a proper orientation, this is partly what Cliff was alluding to. If we don't have a proper orientation towards that political system, all our participatoriness in it is going to yield weak, insufficient fruit to lead to our full development the way it was supposed to be. If we don't go back to the origin of the problem and the crime and try to repair that, we're going to get nowhere participating in this democracy.
Anything anybody want to have to add to that?
I want to throw on the conspiracy theory hat and. Yeah, one thing most folks knowledge is the balance. In order to get it done, sometimes you got to use some evil to get it done. I use the example of the story of Job. For God to prove his point, he allowed the devil evil that he could think of to this man just to prove that Job would always praise him. He already knew what was going on. He knew the good that was going to come from it. Allowed that evil to manifest for that good purpose. I feel like to the point of having the LGBT on pass, because every political party that promotes that has an underlying level of evil that promotes it and makes it seem good. You think about America, like America's this great nation is made from a lot of dirty, evil actions. But it's needed to get done to make America look as pretty as people look. So I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna do this political fact, we definitely gotta embrace that evil. The evil that is going to be needed to add to the power that we need.
Well, we've had various levels of success with participatory democracy. After Emancipation Day, we elected a ton of Black officials. In some jurisdictions, we were even a majority of of the government, of the elected officials. And that still didn't work. Fast forward, in another period, you had Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party trying to develop an independent party, trying to get seated in the convention. Okay, we've had various levels of success, and we've tried everything working within this system, and yet we're still in this same boat. So if we walk out the historical, Cliff said it earlier, right? The historical example is the American society can grant this one day and take it away from you the next day. We've had political success working within the system. We've had political success working as independent, and it's all been snatched from us to put us back where we are now. So at what point does the historical analysis inform us that the limited benefits of believing in this path as the main tool for what we need is going to deliver the results?
Three things. I just kind of want to throw out there, and the first one is to agree with what Brother Sifiwe has been talking about, especially as far as reaching back to looking at the idea of reparations as a crime against an individual in a village practicing a culture and a spirituality, and then finding out which of those we are attached to and embracing that and using that. I think that's an important thing, simply for the purpose of us finding where our origin is, where our source is. And I think, as they say, every river knows its source. I mean, that's not the actual slogan, but it's all I could remember in my little adult brain at this particular point in time. At the same time, though, to paraphrase Malcolm, we're not catching hell in the United States because we're Bantu. We're not catching hell in the United States because we're Bantu. We're not catching hell in the United States because we're Igbo or Yoruba. He said we're not catching hell because we're Christian. We're not catching hell because we're Muslim. We're catching hell because we're black. It's a simplistic kind of an analogy, but the idea is that still our oppressors don't necessarily know what our roots are either. And yet they find ways to oppress us regardless, because that's not the basis upon which they visit their oppression upon us. They didn't care what village we were with, what spirituality we practiced when they snatched us up. They just cared that we were someone there who didn't look like them. They could grab us up and they could exploit us for the next 400 years. What that tells me is that while it's important for us to reach back and find out what our source is, at some point, all of us who are reaching back to find our individual source, our individual village, our individual nation, still have to find a way to come together and unify as a people in order to fight back against our common oppressor. So that's the one. The second thing is with regard to the question of participatory democracy and whether democracy in the United States, I agree that democracy in the United States is essentially a sham. I don't really think they're truly practicing democracy in the United States. I really do think that they're practicing two wolves and one sheep voting on what's for dinner. That's what they're doing. So the idea of participatory democracy, to me, when I think of that, I actually think about what has evolved from the process that Brother Sifiwe had helped to start back in 2007 with the town halls, especially the town hall that I met him at in New York at White Rock Baptist Church in January 2007. From there, while there were a number of changes and fits and starts that came out of that, what came out of that was a plan to hold what we call Pan-African Town Hall meetings. The organization I'm with now, Sixth Region Diaspora Caucus, is the idea of it was to attempt to carry that ball as far forward as we could. We would do it by organizing on the state level. So I'm the Maryland State facilitator of that organization. So what we do is we schedule and hold what we call Pan-African Town Hall meetings. At those town hall meetings, we gather whoever comes, and unfortunately, it's a small slice of our community that comes to these things. But the people who come, we let them know what our purpose is. We let them know what our aim is. But then at that point, we put the ball in their court. We ask them, okay, let's discuss what the issues are that impact upon you as a community right here in Baltimore, right here in the state of Maryland. And so they'll run those things down. We did this in 2017 over the course of 5 Pan-African town hall meetings that we had at the oldest Black social club in the United States, Arch Social Club, on Pennsylvania Avenue in central West Baltimore. And the people started basically inputting these notions. So we had a number of categories we wound up putting those things in. We had these lists of areas where we felt our community needed repair, needed more self-determination, needed whatever, and those became what we called a Pan-African agenda. We didn't get to the next stage, which was where the community then nominated a council of elders. They did do that, but we didn't get to the point where the community nominated individuals who would then be able to speak on that Pan-African agenda, which they, the community, had developed. I didn't tell them, but they told me, they told us. They developed that Pan-African agenda. Here are the things that we need as a community. And then the next stage is for them to determine who they would want to be their standard bearer, the person who would go to national and international meetings, whether it's the African Union, the Pan-African Federalist Movement, whether it's going on television, whether it's showing up at a congressional hearing or whatever it may be, to then give voice to that Pan-African agenda. Each state, in theory, would do this and then come together, and from that, formulate a Pan-African agenda for people of African descent in the United States. If the same thing were done in Europe and in Central America and in the Caribbean and in South America and in Oceania and in Asia and in Africa, then that would be a closer example of the participatory democracy that I would be looking for, more so than the contrived democracy.
Exactly.
To be, say, here's A, here's B, pick one. No. There are 26 letters in this alphabet, and there's even more letters in other alphabets. I'm going to take letter number X. I'm going to take letter X and go with that. So
and just to clarify,
that would be participatory democracy in my mind.
Just to clarify and just give a little context, right? What Brother Cliff is talking about was in 2003, for the first time, these 54 countries in Africa said they had our back. Okay? So we took them at their word in good faith. And what they told us to do was they said, organize yourself, the entire, what they call 6th region of the African Union, the entire African diaspora in the Western Hemisphere and Europe, and actually eventually also in Pacific Islands as well. They told us to organize yourselves, develop your own vehicle, independent of whatever country you're domiciled in. You develop your own vehicle, now interface with us. Okay, I was the one that inherited that mission, and this is how I met Brother Cliff. I traveled throughout the Western Hemisphere, Professor O, throughout the United States, not trying to put myself as a leader, but presenting the information like Cliff said, which is we have a mandate to do this. We have a mandate first and foremost from ourselves. The whole Pan-African Project and Black Thought, has always said we need to do this. But we traveled throughout the United States, and I went to Trinidad, and I went to Barbados, and I went to Jamaica, and I went to, what I found? I went to Central America, and I found out the easiest group of Black people to organize is Central America because they were already organized. We went to Central America. They had Cabo with Sydney, Central African American Black Organization, meaning they had a vehicle and a structure where every Black organization from Honduras was represented in the Honduras contingent. Every Black organization from Nicaragua was represented in the Nicaraguan contingent. And then they just brought each contingent to this annual conference that they have, that they control at a site that they own, right? And so we only had to have one meeting to organize the entire Central American Black organizations. So when Professor O tries to lecture about doing grassroots, it's because he's ignorant of the work that we've already put in since 2003 to organize the grassroots for real participatory democracy, not this fake thing that they're selling us. And what we discovered was some groups of Black people were better prepared, better organized than others. We went to Panama to get the South African groups. Meanwhile, our counterparts in Europe were doing the work in England and Netherlands. And
AOADS, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's all this going on that the average Black person in America doesn't know. Certainly in Argentina and Chile, they didn't really know. There's all this work that's been put in to try to get us to that vehicle so that we could then engage in politics, not from the weak position of having no political party domestically and having to choose between the lesser of two evils, versus being in a position where not only did we have a domestic vehicle, it's backed up by the unity of the entire members of the African Union 60s, the entire African diaspora, and also backed up by support from these 54 countries in the African Union. What we learned in going through that process is that the countries in Africa were disingenuous. They really didn't intend to back us the way we thought they meant when we gave them the benefit of the doubt when they amended their constitution. So we learned, okay, we really don't have the backing of these African countries. And we were not able to mobilize the grassroots organizations to get them to agree together with all their diverse perspectives. And one of the reasons I was like, Brother Cliff, you need to come on the show is Brother Cliff, from out of that movement, developed this organizing wheel, right, which he was explaining to me, which made so much sense for how we can actually bring together this vehicle. And I don't know if we have time on this show. We might have to have a show.
Yeah, we're cutting it close. So I want Mr. O to rebut what was just said, and then I'm gonna have Cheech come in after him. Go ahead, Mr. O.
Agree with it. Don't ask him to rebut it. Ask him to be like, hey, you don't have to rebut it, because I didn't say anything.
Ask him to agree with it.
I didn't say anything that's disagreeable. I simply recounted history.
Look, the Cliff, don't get influenced by the Sifi way. I just want to no, I ignore him totally. You look, what you said before, that is what is really very useful. You gave a lot of information. That is what we should work on now. Look, for ignore Sifi way, I'm telling you what I'm telling you. What you said before is what you should start. That's when you said, I say the Black Party, that is the thing. That is the root of a revolution. That is
Hey, man, be respectful. Don't tell somebody to ignore me, Professor O. Go on.
See, gentlemen,
you guys have
act
fun
right
here.
if I am not present.
Well, Cheech, you need to start being on the show much more. I try to mediate as much as I can.
Look, Teach gave a very good information, and we added to what the Cliff said before. Then the program has achieved its goal of tonight. Let's not spoil it. So there's so many information. Look at the video. You will see. Just look at what Teach said and what his brother said. Look, there's too many information. That's what we work on. That is what is useful. Now let's forget about differences.
But I will say this before we go into our final thought, and this is going to be Brother Cliff's first ever time doing the final thought. But one thing I will say, it's been a while since I said it. If hope was a person, it will be Mr. O. I'm telling y'all, ladies and gentlemen, if hope was a person, if you want somebody just to pick you up, tell you the truth, want you to give you that warm and fuzzy in your heart, go Mr. O. I'm telling you. I'm telling y'all. Mr. Ho is hope. right there in the
Professor
form
O,
of a person.
Professor O, Professor
Well, I'm sorry.
O.
Professor O teach. I'm sorry. Now she coming on the show. Now she wants to direct traffic now. Okay, go ahead, direct. Just want to come on in.
I just wanted to say, Cliff, if you remember, I was part of the SRDC. I came on in 2010, and I was a representative along with Shabaka for the state of Ohio, and we went to Tennessee and North Carolina or South Carolina. But yeah, and the foundation that was laid, I think, is primal. It is good. But for me, I had an opportunity to continue to be on the international scene with the African Union. In 2018, I was officially elected as a representative for the 6th region to the Social Affairs Department. And I credit the foundation of the SRDC in navigating those waters for me. Me being elected, I still hold the post because of the COVID. We were supposed to meet this year and have the next election, but COVID prevents us. So I'm still in place as an official 6th regional representative to the Social Affairs Department. I'm sorry, I just got off the road. I had to do some running around while we were on the show. But anyway, that way, the challenges that we met in Ohio with the Council of Elders, and you know the person I'm talking about.
Yep.
They made it hard to do everything because, like you said, they were small meetings, and I felt when I was elected, there was only 6 people present. I felt nobody in Ohio even knew what was going on. So the first thing I wanted to do was go on an awareness campaign and make Ohio aware of who I am and how I'm representing them. Because to be elected as a local official, and then when we were in South Carolina, elected as the international representative, and yet nobody know 6 people in the state know that I'm the representative. To me, that was a great era. And when I tried to go forward, I was fighting an uphill battle, and I was stopped by the Council of Elders because they were saying, well, you're moving too fast, and we didn't do it this way, and we need you to just sit down and do nothing.
Wow.
And so that's when I approached the African Union under my own organization, African Roots and Heritage Foundation, and I was accepted into the Social Affairs Department, and I've become the mainstay. And at this date, I've been with them since 2012. I am still the one go-to person when they need somebody from the United States. I'm the one that they call. And so what I'm suggesting is, outside of the planned, organized way that was implemented by the SRDC, sometimes just stepping outside of the box and making yourself present can be the way to have a voice and make our presence relevant and make our presence known.
And in layman's terms, she's the only senator in this house. I got you, Teach.
I'm not.
I always
That's not
wanted
what
to
I said.
look. I always wanted to use that line. That came up. What's love got to do with it? She said, "Go ahead, man. Don't give any ideas. I'm the only senator in this house." I said, "You know, I'll use that line one of these days."
What teacher alluding to, though, was the problem of our disunity. Meaning, something as big and as important, as profound as this, we couldn't get the so-called established black press to report on it, to use, the National Association of Black Journalists, right? Certainly you're not going to have the black commentators on ABC and CNN, right, reporting on this. So, Professor, what she's saying is that the level of consciousness and awareness in our community, right, was so low, and those with the consciousness were so disconnected to the media and the means for distributing the information, that we couldn't progress, or we didn't progress. The processes were clearly laid out by our best intellectuals, right? This process of how to go about organizing the grassroots to make this really robust, people-centered, people-supported, independent political force. The process was laid out, but we couldn't go through the process because we didn't have enough participation, because we were so disconnected, particularly with the media and stuff, which is why having, back internet was in 2006 was not what it is today. Now we have so much media, but it's like, unless you're Don Lemon on CNN, it's really hard to get buy-in from our own people unless it's on certain channels.
I would like to say one other thing and bring Cliff's memory back to the African and African American Summit in Washington, D.C. in 2015. For me, that particular summit was a meeting between the Atlantic. That particular event was organized by a lady of the name of Evelyn Joe. And
Evelyn
yeah.
Joe, she's a friend. She's a friend. I know her.
Okay.
Evelyn Joe.
And
Miss Joe. Evelyn Joe. Yes.
Yeah.
From Cameroon.
Yes, exactly. From Cameroon.
What?
I know her.
You know her.
What?
Oh yes, I know that she
out of
goes
that
to
meeting for me. What came out of that meeting for me, and I don't know if Cliff felt it too, but there was a point in the services where everybody was. They were crying.
Say that again.
Yeah, say that.
Everyone was crying, tears running down the faces, because for the African Americans, we felt for the first time since our captivity that the African-born people had come. And then we were crying because we were disappointed, because we realized they had come, but they were not there. And what I mean by this is, by the purpose of the meeting in their mind was to gather the diaspora, in their definition, those that lived outside of Africa, but had ties back to their home country and were sending money home, which means it was not us. We were considered the historical diaspora, and they were really referring to what they were calling the contemporary diaspora. So you had two sets of diasporas, and again, we were feeling like we were left out.
Oh, there's a
And they
there's
were
a can of
feeling
worms
like,
for you right there.
That is true. That is the truth. Just like Jesus
Yeah,
said, thou sayest it.
Yeah, so we felt like the Africans had come, but they really didn't show up. But it was, if they were wise and listening, they would have understood, wow, this is bigger than we originally thought and we originally planned. So we need to go back and figure out how to include the historical diaspora, because they were present and they need us, and we didn't even realize that we truly needed them too.
Yeah.
Like Professor O, they were ignoring us.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
In so many ways, it wasn't intentional. It wasn't intentional because they just hadn't really thought about us. You know, we were 400 years ago, so we were not present in their mind when they were planning it in Washington, D.C. They weren't planning it in Africa. They planned it in America for the diaspora. But they had to fully define what they thought was the diaspora.
I was in the room when they did it in 2003, and this is what I warned us from 2000. So what you experienced in 2015, I had warned 12 years previous that when they said the African diaspora, they did not intend to include us. And if we didn't organize ourselves and force ourselves into that, it was going to have nothing to do with us. So,
my generation, you have this experience with this new generation of the 20s. My generation, born in the 50s, and I grew up in the 60s, we have a different, attachment to our people in diaspora. In 1977, during the time I traveled to Argentina, Nigeria and Senegal co-hosted the second African and Black Festival of Arts and Culture that brought representative of Blacks from Brazil, from the US, from the Caribbean, all to Nigeria to celebrate the Black Brotherhood. That was why they created the African and Black Festival of Art and Culture in the 70s. International events changed everything. New generation, new education, and that is what you experienced. My generation experienced something different. We knew of the Black Brotherhood. We were the Pan-Africanists in the 70s, in the 60s, that was uniting us with Blacks in the US. But things have changed. The world changed.
All right. So I want to continue this conversation for Friday. Brother Cliff, you think you can be able to tune in on Friday?
More than likely.
Okay.
More than likely. I don't think my boss will have anything that I need to do in the evening on Friday, but every once in a while she has an assignment for me. But assuming that does not happen, I will work my schedule to make myself available.
Okay, so because I want to continue this conversation, because once again something special happened tonight, and I want to keep the conversation going, and we went overtime too as well. I'm gonna start putting overtime. So Brother Cliff, we do a thing called the final thought, and that's basically at the tail end of the show where you will basically have the floor and you will say anything that's pertaining to the show or something you just want to get off your chest. So just feel free, whatever comes on your, come out your mind or whatever's on your chest, just let it flow.
Okay, well, I guess I'll go with something rather general, and it's actually something I was thinking about saying anyway. And
yeah.
Hold on. We're gonna set you up.
I gotta set you up. Put you out the intro. So okay, so as our honorary guest, you will be the first one in line. But once again, I'd like to thank once again the panel for coming on, having Forday, he actually left early. I wished him a farewell. I tell him he's welcome anytime on the show. Also, Cheech showing special appearance, the senator in the house coming up in here, putting out her knowledge. But also, once again, Brother Cliff, thank you for coming on the show. I send the invitation out there to you as well. And also, please, more information on that Black Party in your neck of the woods. But other than that, let me go ahead and get everything set up for you. And let's go. Hey, Brother Cliff.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was seeing if you was still on. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get out your scene. My bad.
Oh, no problem. I was just typing in the Ujuma People's Progress Party information. And let's see. All right, I'll do that.
Hey, Brother Cliff, we gonna come back to you. I'm gonna go ahead and let Seep Away go ahead and take over. We come back to you.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh.
We come back to you. We come back to you.
Okay.
Well, my final thought is this. Some of us have been doing this work a long time. And when people who don't know about the work that we've actually done and try to tell us to do the things that we've already done, and then want to disrespect us, that's not being a good Pan-African comrade. So I'm feeling a little bit offended because this is what happens. The very same people that talk about respecting everybody don't always do that. The fact of the matter is, we've been engaging in participatory democracy since emancipation. We have never stopped participating. We've never disengaged from the political process a single year since 1865. We've been engaged. We've had successes and failures, and yet we've never been able to fully leverage the strength and unity of a united Black independent party. That project has never been done. Meanwhile, we've never been able to unite the diaspora as a whole with the continent. Now, there are going to be all kinds of strategies and tactics for doing that, okay? But again, if we don't learn the lessons of history, if we don't go to the origin of the problem to inform the solution, and if we don't go to learn the lessons of history, we're going to continue down dead ends. And people who don't know the history and who haven't been putting in the work should humbly sit and listen. That's my final point.
Okay, I guess it's final thought time for me too. I would say that for African people, the issue is not either or. There are a number of approaches that we have as a people in an attempt to establish and strengthen our liberation, our self-determination, our prosperity as individuals, as a people, as a nation. So it's not a question of, do we, say for instance, reach back and find what our genealogy is, or do we seek a more Pan-Africanist solution? I don't think that the two are mutually exclusive. You can do all of these things. We can go back and look into what we can. I fully agree with Brother Sifiwe as far as reaching back and finding what our genealogy tells us and where our source is back on the continent. It does not mean that we stop being Pan-Africanists or Pan-African thinkers. It's not a matter of either or, it's a matter of both and. One of the problems that I think that we have experienced as a people is that we seem to want to do all of the things that we have thought of one at a time. People say, well, economics is the issue for us. And then someone else comes along and says, well, you got to vote. And another person says, well, just pray to God and it'll get all straight. Another person says revolution is the only solution. And other people say culture is the currency. And it's as though we have to try one and then try the other and then try the other and then try the other. The only thing it seems that we have not tried is all of them at once. If you are a chess player, or at least if you are a good chess player, you understand that if you try to use only one piece, you will not only lose, but you will lose badly. Doesn't matter which piece it is. If you bring out your queen and attempt to attack the opponent early because the queen is the most powerful piece on the board, your opponent, if they're smart, they'll use their less powerful pieces, their pawns, their bishops, their knights. They'll attack your queen and knock her all around the board and either trap her somewhere or win her outright. While you're trying to extricate your queen, those pieces then gather together because they've mobilized. They're working together. They go after your king, they capture him, and they end the game. The one who wins is the one who uses all of their pieces effectively. You see it in chess, you see it in basketball, you see it in any team sport. So for me, the important thing would be not to say this one, not that one. How about this one and that one? How about taking all of the different ways that we can advance ourselves as a people and struggle against oppression, find a way to make those different ways work together, and then wield them as one, like the fingers. Where's my hand? The fingers. You can break these. Malcolm says, if I slap you upside your face with these, it may sting a little, but that's it, because his hands are disconnected. He said, all I need to put you in your place is to bring these digits together. And to me, that's ultimately going to be the key for us, is when we start bringing our different organizations, our different missions, our different talents, our different passions together into a coordinated, overarching strategy. And yeah, it includes the kind of participatory democracy that the United States has, quite frankly, never let us practice. And maybe that participatory democracy doesn't come within the US political system. Maybe it comes within our own grassroots Pan-African organizing system that we develop ourselves as a people from the ground up. And I think that's probably more than enough for me for one day.
Brother Cliff, you really made me happy this evening. Your words of wisdom, the way you focus your ideas and the information that you brought forward. I will be brief. When you said there was a black party being formed somewhere, look, do you know Hema Sakela? I think he must be looking at us from abroad and singing the old song again. The boy is doing it. Oh, the boy is doing it, doing it. The boy is doing it. The boy is doing it. That is the end of my own closing talk. The boys are doing it. Thank you.
Well, I wanted to mention about the decision that was made today concerning Breonna Taylor and how they indicted one man for wanton endangerment, and the other three went free. I'm all choked up. I'm out of feelings concerning the injustices that we endure in this country. They had pre-prepared with boarding up the city, bringing in the National Guard, taking the police officers off of vacation. They couldn't call off. Everybody had to be available and ready on call because they anticipate that it would be a very bad decision. And I don't know if anything is happening right now in Kentucky, but I know the people, they're beyond tired. And to see our justice system deliver misjustice, miscarrying justice each and every time in our case when it pertains to our race. We can't be colorblind. We cannot turn the other cheek. We can no longer afford it. At the rate that they are killing us, we will be extinct if things do not turn around. I don't know what the answer is. Everyone has an opinion, a thought, but I have not seen or heard one solid plan. What I see is despair. What I see is hopelessness. What I see is fear. And I think the fear is greater than anything else. That fear is paralyzing. It's a paralyzing fear that is over the spirit of the African. And I say, let's call upon the gods of the African to break this spirit of paralyzation. Let us call upon the God that created us. Let us call upon the power that's in us. Let us break the chains off of our mind. Let us break the chains off of our souls. Let us break the chains off of our eyes that we may be able to see. That we may be able to have a vision. That we may be able to go forward. There has to be a way. There absolutely has to be a way. And I have not seen it. I have not heard it. I have not spoken it. But at some point, we have to find justice, define justice, implement justice, take and possess justice for ourselves. And with that, Kwaheri Yakukuona. Goodbye until we meet again.
For my final thought, I want us to be reminded of your peripherals. As we focus on our individual tasks and our individual strengths and pursuits for this progress, let us not get tunnel vision and only see what we want to see for what we are trying to achieve. Keep the side of our eyes always open and attentive at all times, because if this discussion has shown us anything this evening, is that you're not alone, no matter how you may feel that way at times. You're not the only person that's thinking about it, trying to set it up, or actually executed it already. So remain strong and fervent with your focus, but be attentive with them peripherals as well, because you never know when that similar energy that you need to help supplement or balance out what you're trying to do may come along, and vice versa. And I'll leave that as my final thought. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Y'all have a good one.
And my question is, how do I follow up all these great thoughts? My goodness, why I do this to myself? But I tell y'all this. Teach really what she said, because I forgot, because when I was driving back to my room, that's all that I was listening to. And here's the cold irony of that whole entire situation. The attorney general that's handling this case is one of us. So right there speaks volumes. So even your own probably don't have your own interests at hand. And it's crazy how this world got us all just all over the place. You're liberal, you're conservative, you're libertarian, or you just fall in the middle. But the only place, not trying to toot our horn, but toot, only place I have seen different views leading to the same goal was on this show. And if you didn't see it the past shows, you definitely saw it on this show. Nobody wasn't arguing with each other. Nobody calling each other out of their names. Nobody's debating on which religion is better or what have you, or who to vote for, or we need to just throw away everything, throw away the kitchen sink and have no plan. You ain't heard none of that on this show. Everybody, like I always say, I know this is going to give Mr. O a big ass smile when I say this. We are on the same sheet of music, but we playing different instruments. We get to the solutions. And I think Brother Cliff actually pointed on to it, where he said, well, this can work and this not. Why not? Well, this could work. Maybe this could work. I probably messed it up. But basically, I always go back to philosophy. There's no such thing as a bad idea. The idea just didn't work for now. But let's hold it for a different time, because that idea could work. For anybody, this is your first time watching the show, this is what you get here. Great scholars, musicians, service member, and people that done the work will be on this show to educate you. And me as a host, sitting back and hearing these, my great panel members and my two guests, spitting out knowledge, spitting out game. I learned a lot. And I'm taking a lot every show, but I think this show right here is just up there. It's right there that I've taken back and taken in the most about my culture, my heritage, and what I need to do to find out about myself. But at the same time, give these brothers, give these sisters a platform so they can get their voice to be heard. And it really did hurt me hearing Sipaway saying, man, back in the day, we couldn't even get no airtime. Not even from our own people, from the Black, Black Journalists Association, wherever that group is. That's sad. And the things that are going on in this country right now inspired me to do this show. And for anybody who's putting in the work or who just getting started, you are welcome to be on the show. Even if you feel indifferent to what you heard on this show, you have the right to be heard. Come on this show. This is beyond the conversation. This is a dialogue where everybody is putting their ideas and thoughts on the table and taking it for what it is. You will get that in no other place but here on hashtag Fade to Black. And before I end my final thought, shout out to Teach, because she did do a show, I think it was something of the arts, where she was talking about her book and all that stuff, and she just took over. So that's why I said Teach was the senator of everything. Because when she went up on the show, she was waiting so patiently. I wish I had the video up there. She was looking all nice and everything. She's sitting there waiting like, okay, oh, y'all done talking about your boring book? Like, I think she was one of the two sisters on the show, and she took it over. Ladies and gentlemen, that's power. That's why we miss you, Teach. I'm so sick and tired every day when people who watch this show come to me and be like, hey, whatever happened to Teach? I'm like, I don't know. She got a thing called job. She got the census thing going on. It's like, dang. But it's great to have you back on, Teach. You did your thing on that show. I'm definitely going to share it on our page and all that stuff. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get to the solutions rather than people just bumping heads and calling each other out their names and all that stuff, if you're sick and tired of that, tune into hashtag Fade to Black, because we control the narrative. And I'm gonna bring everybody back on in. Sipaway, when you said that, that really did hurt me. I was like, damn. I'm like, I didn't know y'all was going through it. So I was like, you know what? I'm happy that I created this platform so individuals like yourself and Brother Cliff and Forte can come on and can express their views and ideas. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to tell your mother, tell your dad, tell everybody about this show to tune in and also be a part of the conversation as well. If this is your first time, please continue to tune in as well. You know, tell your friends and all that stuff. But anybody else got any alibis before we head on out? Because I was about to do like a little promotion, you know. Don't forget to get t-shirts.
I'm gonna get mine in the coffee mug.
Yeah. Don't forget, Mr. Jones, if you're watching right now, please come on the show. We missed you, dog. This is his company. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Real Chairboy Popcorn is on the screen at the bottom. Check it out. And then also, if you want to get this nice gear and swag, and also, by the way, Cheech, I lowered the price for the leggings, just to let you know.
Okay,
For the cup,
I'll go and check it out.
I lowered the price. And then once again, if you want to get this nice swag and everything, it's at the bottom. Free shipping to the end of this month. Deadline the 30th. All the proceeds go to support this show, because I really do want to do interviews on the street, hear other people's views, and just do more with the show rather than me just sitting in the chair and a mic and a camera and the lighting. Every time I look into a light, I feel like I'm guilty, but you know, it's just the way it is sometimes. But once again, any alibis before we head on out? That's
Keep
great.
on keeping on.
Yeah. And don't forget, and also Beast Johnson, he got
And
music
thank-
going out too. Go ahead, Cheech.
Thanks for the shout out.
Oh yeah, you killed on this show.
I didn't know that. I was the last one interviewed. So
Yeah, I know. You would sit there just waiting, like, yo, when are y'all gonna say something about me? Boring ass books. Since you know, all of a sudden Chi took over, like, yeah, this is my book right here. I was in Africa.
But it was a good show. Everybody had 5 or 6 minutes. It was a good show. It went fast. You know, I enjoyed it, you know, but I didn't know I had taken over.
Yeah, you did. And the host, I believe she ran a great show, by the way, too, as well. It was not like one person took more of the time. She gave everybody equal time and all that stuff. But I thought you should have went first. But you know, that's just me. Maybe I'm just biased because you're on this show. I'm just saying. But other than that, we gotta head on out, ladies and gentlemen. As for Beast Johnson, Seep Away, Brother Cliff, Mr. O, or Cheech will say Professor O, and then Anita
Professor O.
and Anita, she trying to be senator already. And Anita Joe, aka Cheech, and then also for 4 Day, who was also on the show, but unfortunately he left before we could head on out. But other than that, and me, your host, Donna Lamonte Morse, thank y'all for tuning in to hashtag Fade to Black. This conversation will continue on Friday. Cannot wait. And may y'all have a good one. And once again, there's a disease out there. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please wear your mask. Take care of yourselves. And also stay educated on what's going on out here. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we outro. Thank you, panel. And we out.
Say